No, he seems like a man who would appreciate a practical woman like Nadia. He's like, I love the way she looks at tractors. So cute. I like the way she handles them too. I like the way she swings that hammer. And she like sees his visions, you know, like she likes to listen to him talk. It's so cute. Oh my god, I gotta stop. I feel like she's not like as ugly as like everybody keeps describing her as. Like, cause the only people who have described her as like frumpy or like she's just like a homely woman. The only people who've described her that way are herself and Maya, and like Maya's kind of stupid. So it's like, shut up, Maya. You're a supermodel. Everybody thinks you're hot, and so obviously you don't think anybody else is like as hot as you are. But that doesn't mean that Nadia's ugly, you know, like holding hands and talking and like being just like a well-rounded person. Sorry that we can't all be Russian supermodels. She just needs to take off her glasses and put her hair up. Oh, because she said well-rounded. I get it, because they said she was short and round. I feel like she's short and muscular, right? Like, she's a construction worker. She can't be that round. She's beefy. She's big beefy. Some people like that, okay? She's probably like 5'4" and pure muscle. She thick. She's like a dwarf. Like a dwarf from Baldur's Gate 3. I'm fucking dying. That's not what I was imagining, but close, I guess. Yeah. I'm glad you're here, she said. Aww. Okay. Having Arcady at Underhill made it like the hour before a thunderstorm. He made people think about what they were doing. Habits that they had fallen into without thought came under scrutiny. Yeah, Arcady is a powerful man. He just shows up from Phobos and he's like, what are you guys doing? And everybody's like, what are we doing? Ew. They're gonna kill him. Arcady, you're too strong. You're too beautiful. They're gonna kill you. Okay. He made people think about what they were doing. Habits that they had fallen into without thought came under scrutiny. And under this new pressure, some became defensive, others aggressive. All the standing arguments got a little more intense. Naturally, this included the terraforming debate. Now, this debate was in no sense a single topic, but was rather an ongoing process, a topic that kept coming up, a matter of casual exchanges between individuals, outworking, eating meals, falling asleep. Any number of things could bring it up. The sight of the white frost plume over Chernobyl, the arrival of a robot-driven rover, laden with water, any number of things could bring it up. the sight of the white frost plume over Chernobyl, the arrival of a robot-driven rover laden with water ice from the polar station, clouds in the dawn sky. Seeing these or many other phenomena, someone would say, "That'll add some BTUs to the system," or "Isn't that a good greenhouse gas?" And perhaps a discussion of the technical aspects of the problem would follow. Sometimes the subject would come back up in the evenings back in Underhill, leading from the technical to the philosophical, and sometimes this led to long and heated arguments. The debate was not, of course, limited to Mars. Position papers were being churned out by policy centers in Houston, Baikonur, Moscow, Washington, and the UN Office for Martian Affairs in New York, as well as in government bureaus, newspaper editorial offices, corporate boardrooms, university campuses, and bars and homes all over the world. In the arguments on Earth, many people began to use the colonists' names as a kind of shorthand for the various positions, so that watching the Terran news, the colonists themselves would see people saying that they backed the Claiborne position, or were in favor of the Russell program. This reminder of their enormous fame on Earth, their existence as characters in an ongoing TV drama, was always peculiar and unsettling. After the flurry of TV specials and the interviews following Touchdown, they had tended to forget. They had tended to forget the ongoing video transmissions, absorbed in the daily reality of their lives. But the video cameras were still shooting tape to send back home. And there were a lot of people on Earth who were fans of the show. So nearly everyone had an opinion. Polls showed that most supported the Russell program, an informal name for Sachs's plans to terraform the planet by all means possible, as fast as they could. Damn it. But the minority who backed Anne's hands-off attitude tended to be more vehement in their belief, insisting that it had immediate applications to Antarctic policy, and indeed to all Terran environmental policy. Meanwhile, different poll questions made it clear that many people were fascinated by Hiroko and the farming project, while others called themselves Bogdanovists. Arkady had been sending back lots of video from Phobos, and Phobos was a good video. A real spectacle of architecture and engineering. New Terran hotels and commercial complexes were already imitating some of its features. There was an architectural movement called Bogdanovism, as well as other movements interested in him that were more concentrated on social and economic reforms in the world order. But terraforming was near the center of all these debates, and the colonists' disagreements about it were played out on the largest possible public stage. Some of them reacted by avoiding the cameras and requests for interviews. "It's just what I came to get away from," Hiroko's assistant Iwao said, and quite a few agreed with him. Most of the rest didn't care one way or the other. A few seemed to actually like it. Thanks for that, Spicy. Most of the rest didn't care one way or the other. A few seemed to actually like it. Phyllis's weekly program, for instance, was carried by both Christian cable stations and business analysis programs all over the world. But no matter how they dealt with it, looking at the polls and listening to the talk made it obvious that most people on Earth and on Mars assumed that terraforming would take place. It was not a question of whether, but of when and how much. Among the colonists themselves, this was nearly the universal view. Very few sided with Anne. Simon, of course, perhaps Ursula and Sasha, perhaps Hiroko. In his way, John, and now in her way, Nadia. There were more of these Reds back on Earth, but they necessarily held the position as a theory, an aesthetic judgment. The strongest point to their arguments, and thus the one that Anne emphasized the most, often in her communiques back to Earth, was the possibility of indigenous life. If there is Martian life here, Anne would say, the radical alteration of the climate might kill it off. We cannot intrude on the situation. While the status of life on Mars is unknown, it's unscientific, and worse, it's immoral. Many agreed with that, including a lot of the Terran scientific community, which influenced the UNOMA committee charged with overseeing the colony. But every time Sachs heard the argument, he blinked rapidly. There's no sign of life on the surface, past or present, he would say mildly. If it does exist, it has to be underground, near volcanic vents, I suppose. But even if there is life down there, we could search for 10,000 years and never find it, nor eliminate the possibility that it isn't down there somewhere else, somewhere we haven't looked. So waiting until we know for sure that there is no life, which was a fairly common position among moderates, effectively means waiting forever for a remote possibility which terraforming wouldn't immediately endanger anyways. Of course it would, Anne would retort. Maybe not immediately, but eventually the permafrost would melt, there would be movement through the hydrosphere, and contamination of all of it by warmer water and Terran life forms, bacteria, viruses, algae. It might take a while, but it would surely happen. And we can't risk that. Sachs would shrug. First, it's postulated life. Very low probability. Second, it wouldn't be endangered for centuries. We could presumably locate it and protect it in that time. But we may not be able to find it. So we stop for low probability life that we can never actually find? Anne shrugged. We have to. Unless you want to argue that it's okay to destroy life on other planets as long as we can't find it. And don't forget, indigenous life on Mars could be the biggest story of all time. It would have implications for the galactic frequency of life that are impossible to exaggerate. Looking for life is one of the main reasons we're here. Well, Sachs would say, in the meantime, life that we are quite sure exists is being exposed to an extraordinarily high amount of radiation. If we don't do something to lessen it, we may not be able to stay here. We need a thicker atmosphere to cut down on the radiation. This was not a reply to Anne's point, but the substitution of another one. And it was an argument that was very influential. Millions on Earth wanted to come to Mars, to the new frontier, where life was an adventure again. Waiting lists for emigration, both real and fake, were massively oversubscribed. But no one wanted to live in a bath of mutagenic radiation. And the practical desire to make the planet safe for humans was stronger in most people than the desire to preserve the lifeless landscape already there, or to protect a postulated indigenous life that many scientists assured them did not exist. So it did seem, even among those urging caution, that terraforming was going to happen. A subcommittee of UNOMA, 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 a subcommittee of UNOMA had been convened to study the issue. And on Earth, it was now in the nature of a given, an unavoidable part of progress, a natural part of the order of things, a manifest destiny. I was gonna say that, but then I sometimes lately when I've been reading this book, I'll say something and then they'll literally describe it in the next paragraph. That's another thing that I've been struggling with in my summaries is sometimes I'll give a really long-winded summary and then they'll just say it in the next chapter. I almost paused and said a manifest destiny, and then that was the end of the sentence. Yeah, because I've been really obsessed with space for a long time. It's like totally a manifest destiny thing. Like, of course we have to terraform it. It's our destiny. We're literally, that's what we're here to do. It's an unavoidable part of progress, a natural part of the order of things, a manifest destiny. On Mars, however, the issue was both more open and more pressing. Not so much as a matter of philosophy, as of daily life, of frigid, poisonous air, and the radiation being taken. And among those in favor of terraforming, a significant group was clustered around Sachs. A group that not only wanted to do it, but to do it as fast as possible. Like, this was literally my summary. But at least you guys are up to date on it. Like, if you weren't here for the first parts of the book, everything I said is like happening. A group that not only wanted to do it, but to do it as fast as possible. What this meant in practice, no one was sure. Estimates of the time it would take to get to a human viable surface ranged from a century to 10,000 years, with extreme opinions on either end. From 30 years, Phyllis, to 100,000 years, Iwao. Phyllis would say, God gave us this planet to make in our image, to create a new Eden. Simon would say, if the permafrost melts, we'd be living on a collapsing landscape, and a lot of us would be killed. Arguments wandered over a wide range of issues: salt levels, peroxide levels, radiation levels, the look of the land, possibly lethal mutations of genetically engineered microorganisms, and so on. We can try to model it, Sachs said. But the truth is, we'll never be able to model it adequately. The truth is, we'll never be able to model it adequately. It's too big, and there are too many factors. They're gonna nuke the caps, for sure, Skeelers. Simon says, get the fuck up. We can try to model it, Sachs Russell said, but the truth is, we'll never be able to model it adequately. It's too big, and there are too many factors, many of them unknown. But what we will learn from it will be useful in controlling Earth's climate, in avoiding global warming, or a future ice age. It's an experiment, a big one, and it will always be an ongoing experiment, with nothing guaranteed or known for sure. But that's what science is. People would nod at this. Arcady, as always, was thinking of the political point of view. We can never be self-sufficient unless we do terraforming, he pointed out. We need to terraform in order to make this planet ours, so that we will have the material basis for independence. People would roll their eyes at this, but it meant that Sachs and Arcady were allies of a sort, and that was a powerful combination. And so the arguments would go around again and again and again, endlessly. And now, Underhill was nearly complete. A functioning, and in most ways, a self-sufficient village. Now it was possible to act further. Now they had to decide what to do next. And most of them wanted to terraform. Any number of projects had been proposed to begin the process, with advocates for each, usually those who would be responsible for doing it. You just said bowel. Are you pooping right now, Spicy? Maybe the green. Thank you for 42 months. And 15 in a row. Underhill was in most ways a self-sufficient village. It's possible to act further. Any number of projects had been proposed with advocates for each, usually those who would be responsible for doing it. This was an important part of terraforming's attraction. Every discipline could contribute to the enterprise in one way or another, so it had broad-based support. The alchemists talked about physical and mechanical means to add heat to the system. The climatologists debated influencing the weather. The biosphere team talked about ecological system theories to be tested. Ecological systems theories to be tested. The bioengineers were already working on new microorganisms. They were shifting, clipping, and recombining genes from algae, methanogens, cyanobacteria, and lichens to come up with organisms that would survive on the present Martian surface or under it. Dude, this is how the sci-fi horror movies start. They're like, let's just make a new microorganism. What could go wrong? Martian centipedes. Release the centipedes. They were trying to come up with organisms that would survive on the present Martian surface or under it. One day, they invited Arcady to take a look at what they were doing, and Nadia went along with him. They had some prototypes, or they had some of their prototype GEMs in Martian jars. Wait, what does this stand for? Genetically engineered... What's the M? Genetically engineered Martians? GMOs? Oh, microorganisms. Wow. That what is that it's kind of, it's too long. It's too long of a word. Nobody would guess that. Okay, but they had some of their prototype gems in Mars jars. I'm loving these words. Mars jars. The largest of which was one of the old habitats in the trailer park. They had opened it up, shoveled regolith onto the floor, and sealed it again. They worked inside it by teleoperation and viewed the results from the next trailer over, where instrument gauges took readings and video screens showed what the various dishes were producing. Arcady looked at every screen closely, but there wasn't that much to see. Their old quarters, covered with plastic cubicles filled with red dirt. Robot arms extending from their bases against the walls. There were visible growths on part of the soil. A bluish furze. That's our champion so far, Vlad said. But still only slightly aerophilic. They were selecting for a number of extreme characteristics, including resistance to cold and dehydration and UV radiation, tolerance for salts, little need for oxygen, a habitat of rock or soil. No single Terran organism had all of these traits, and those that had them individually were very slow growers. But the engineers had started what Vlad called a mix and match program. And recently they had come up with a variant of the cyanophyte They'd come up with a variant of the cyanophyte that was sometimes called blue-green algae. This is how they created Elon Musk. This is how you create a fucking super virus. Holy shit. You're gonna get a mold that like starts eating people while they're still alive. That's honestly, I just got a new nightmare. Sometimes I have like shower thoughts, or like I'm like, you know, like how everything like molds, and I'm like, and like our bodies like fight off mold all the time. And so then, like, when we die, like, the mold will reclaim us. But, like, what if we couldn't fight it off? And, like, we just, like, started, like, rotting while we were alive. Anyways, I don't know. Probably won't happen. This is what they're gonna build right now. Sorry. Is it too loud? I don't want to blow out people's eardrums. I was trying to be dramatic. Sorry. Sorry. Yeah, like The Last of Us. Yeah, that's kind of, yeah. Okay, good. That's like the storyline from The Last of Us. Okay, fine. Fuck. I guess I'm just ripping off The Last of Us. You guys are right. That's true. But I was very fascinated by that when I was in middle school. Like, isn't it a... What's it called? Cordyceps? Isn't that what the variant is in The Last of Us? Yeah, it's a cordyceps fungus. Yeah, so I have... That's... Alright. Mold is a new take. Thank you. I'm definitely not just remembering things that are in a TV show. And plus the radiation is combined with Fallout now. The radiation is going to blast the fungus mold, mutate radiated fungus. Yeah, it's terrifying. And our bodies will not be able to fight it off, and there's going to be no way to kill it because it's not going to be susceptible to heat or cold or lack of oxygen or oxygen. This is a gigamold. And it's going to start taking us while we're still alive. Okay, anyways. All jokes. All jokes. We're getting distracted, chat. We're getting off track here. The mix and match program, and recently they had come up with a variant of the cyanophyte that was sometimes called blue-green algae. It's not precisely thriving, but it does not die so fast. Let us put it that way. They had named it Cyanophyte primaris, its common name becoming Underhill algae. They wanted to make a field trial with it and had prepared a proposal to send down to Unoma. Arcady left the trailer park, excited by the visit. Nadia could see. You fools, if you name it, you humanize it. Okay, I'm also a little freaked out because, like, last week or so, I watched, there was a sci-fi that got, like, recommended in my Hulu. I think it was on Hulu. I watched Life for the first time, which is, a movie with Jake Gyllenhaal and, like, who's the guy who plays, Deadpool? See, I'd never even heard of this movie before. Yeah, the rest of it was LOL. I actually liked it, and now it's making me think about how they're, like, Ryan Reynolds, yeah. So I was, like, kind of getting reminded of that this whole time. You fools, if you name it. You humanize it. You can't name it. Its name was, what was the name in the Life? They called it, Bob. No, it's something with a C. It was Calvin. They named it Calvin, and they were like, oh, Calvin, you're so cute. And then it, like, ate them all. Okay. Arcady left the trailer park, excited by the visit. Nadia could see. And that night, he said to the dinner group, Calvin got loose. And that night he said to the dinner group, "We should make the decision on our own. And if we decide in favor, act." Okay, I gotta pee again. And also my butt hurts, dude. How long have I been reading for? I feel like my ass doesn't usually hurt 1 hour in.